May 15, 1911. The Supreme Court rules that Standard Oil is an illegal monopoly. The empire must be dissolved into 34 separate companies. John D. Rockefeller is playing golf when he hears the news. He turns to his companion and says 3 words: "Buy Standard Oil stock." The breakup made him richer. That is the paradox most people miss entirely. To understand it, go back 40 years to a bookkeeper in Cleveland who saw something everyone else missed. In 1870, a 31-year-old named John D. Rockefeller controlled 4% of American oil refining. By 1880, he controlled 90%, not 90% of the oil, 90% of the refining. The difference matters. He did not win through luck. He did not win through inheritance. He won through a system so effective that when the government finally shattered his empire, the pieces were worth more than the whole. This is not a story about oil. This is a story about the architecture of total control. Before we trace his rise, understand the machine he built. 3 mechanisms made Standard Oil unstoppable. Once you see them, you will recognize them in every dominant corporation today. First, the ghost contracts. Rockefeller negotiated secret deals with railroads that went far beyond simple discounts. He did not just get lower shipping rates, he demanded what was called a drawback. Every time a competitor shipped oil on those same railroads, the railroad paid Rockefeller a fee. His rivals were literally funding his expansion every time they tried to do business. Think about what this means. A competitor ships 100 barrels. The railroad charges them the full rate. Then the railroad takes a portion of that payment and hands it to Rockefeller. The competitor is paying to strengthen the man who is trying to destroy them. It was mathematically elegant and commercially devastating. Second, vertical integration. Rockefeller did not just buy refineries. He bought everything connected to them. The barrel factories. Competitors paid $2.50 per barrel. Rockefeller made his own for 96 cents. The tank cars. Other refiners paid railroads for every shipment. Rockefeller owned 8,000 tank cars and negotiated rates that seemed impossible. The pipelines. 3,000 miles by the late 1870s, connecting wells to refineries to distribution centers. The warehouses. The delivery wagons. The retail outlets. Every step that used to generate profit for someone else, he brought inside Standard Oil. Every middleman eliminated was margin recaptured. Third, waste to wealth. This was perhaps his most underappreciated advantage. While competitors dumped refining sludge into rivers, treating it as worthless garbage, Rockefeller hired chemists to monetize every drop. Lubricating oil, paraffin for candles, petroleum jelly, which became Vaseline, naphtha, tar, 300 products from what others threw away. The result was stunning. Rockefeller could sell kerosene below his competitors' cost of production and still make profit on the byproducts. He was not just more efficient. He was playing a different game entirely. These were not tactics. They were a system. And the system was designed to make competition mathematically impossible. If you could not match his shipping costs, his production costs, and his byproduct revenue simultaneously, you could not compete. Period. Now, the origin. Cleveland, 1855. A teenager walks into a merchant firm looking for work. He has no connections, no family money. His father is a traveling salesman who sold patent medicines and disappeared for months at a time, sometimes for years. His mother raises 5 children on faith, frugality, and unwavering Baptist discipline. This is not a rags to riches myth. Rockefeller did not start in a garage with nothing but dreams. He started with something far more dangerous, a mind that saw inefficiency as sanguine and competition as chaos. While other young men played cards, John kept a ledger. Every penny earned, every penny spent, every penny given to charity. He called it Ledger A, and he maintained it his entire life. This was not accounting. This was religion. A system of moral bookkeeping where the numbers revealed character. His first job paid $3.50 a week. He worked 16-hour days without complaint. He reviewed every invoice for errors. He questioned every expense. Within 3 years, he had saved enough to become a partner in a commodities trading firm. By 20, he was handling transactions worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But commodities trading was volatile. Prices swung wildly based on weather, war, and speculation. Rockefeller hated volatility. He craved control. He wanted a business where discipline and efficiency would be rewarded, not luck. Then came the discovery that would change everything. In 1859, Edwin Drake struck oil in Titusville, Pennsylvania. The news spread like wildfire. Within months, thousands of prospectors flooded the region. Fortunes made and lost overnight. Wooden derricks sprouting from the hills, muddy roads clogged with wagons, desperate men drilling holes hoping to strike black gold. Boomtowns appearing and vanishing within a single season. Rockefeller watched this frenzy with the cold eyes of a systems thinker. He saw what the prospectors missed entirely. Drilling was gambling. You might hit a gusher. You might hit nothing. But every barrel of crude that came out of the ground had to go somewhere. It had to be refined into kerosene before anyone could use it. And refining was a process. A system. Something that could be optimized, standardized, and controlled. Let the gamblers drill holes in the ground. Rockefeller would control what happened to every barrel they pulled out. In 1863, he invested $4,000 in his first refinery. Within 2 years, it was the largest in Cleveland. But Cleveland had 30 refineries, all competing viciously. Margins thin, bankruptcies common. The industry destroying itself through excess competition. Prices fluctuating wildly as supply outstripped demand. Most businessmen saw this as a problem to survive. Rockefeller saw it as a problem to solve, not by competing better, but by eliminating competition entirely. January 1870. He incorporated the Standard Oil Company of Ohio. The name itself was a declaration of intent. Standard, one measure, one way, his way. Armed with his railroad rebates and drawback agreements, he launched what historians would later call the Cleveland Massacre. In early 1872, he approached every refinery owner in the city with the same proposition. Join Standard Oil and become wealthy beyond your imagination. Refuse and face a price war you cannot win. He did something his competitors never expected. He opened his books. He showed them his costs. He demonstrated mathematically that he could produce refined oil cheaper than they could buy crude. The numbers were irrefutable. The choice was not really a choice at all. Some owners negotiated for stock in Standard Oil and became millionaires as the company expanded. Others, suspicious or stubborn, sold for cents on the dollar and watched their life's work absorbed into the machine. A few fought. They borrowed money. They sought new railroad deals. They tried to undercut his prices. They all lost. Within 6 weeks, Rockefeller acquired 22 of Cleveland's 26 refineries. By the end of 1872, he controlled a quarter of American refining capacity. He was just getting started. Through the 1870s, the machine expanded relentlessly. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore, the same pattern everywhere. Secret rebates, vertical integration, price wars that crushed anyone who refused to sell. Acquisition of the survivors. By 1879, Standard Oil controlled 90% of American oil refining. The scale was unprecedented in industrial history. One company, one man, 90% of a critical industry, but success created a new problem. State laws prohibited corporations from owning companies across state lines. Standard Oil operated in dozens of states. How could one man control assets scattered across the nation without violating the law? In 1882, his lawyers found the answer. They created the Standard Oil Trust. Shareholders in 40 separate companies transferred their stock to 9 trustees at 26 Broadway in New York. In exchange, they received trust certificates entitling them to dividends. On paper, these were still independent companies. In reality, 9 men in one boardroom controlled them all. Every day at lunch, the executives met. No motions passed unless unanimous. It was a hive mind of calm, methodical execution. They did not shout. They ate soup and dismantled industries. This was the first legal vehicle for national corporate control in American history. Within years, sugar trusts, tobacco trusts, and steel trusts copied the model. The word trust became synonymous with monopoly power. Rockefeller had invented the modern corporation. But every system contains the seeds of its own destruction. The first cracks were personal. By the 1890s, Rockefeller suffered chronic digestive problems so severe he could not eat solid food. His hair fell out completely, including his eyebrows and eyelashes. He had a condition called alopecia, likely triggered by stress. Doctors warned his life was in danger if he did not step back from the business. The machine was running perfectly. The man who built it was breaking down. He began to delegate. He played more golf. He spent time at his estates. But he never stopped watching the numbers. Then came the external shock that would expose the system's deepest flaw. On January 10, 1901, a drilling crew near Beaumont, Texas, hit something massive. Oil erupted from the ground with such force it blew the derrick apart. The Lucas Gusher at Spindletop produced more oil in one day than all the wells in Pennsylvania combined. It flowed for 9 days before they could cap it. This should have been Rockefeller's moment. More oil meant more refining, more distribution, more profit. Standard Oil had the infrastructure to dominate Texas, just as it had dominated the East. But Spindletop oil was different. Sour crude, high in sulfur, with a smell like rotten eggs. Standard's refineries were optimized for the sweet Pennsylvania crude they had been processing for decades. The Texas oil would corrode their pipes and ruin their equipment. The committee at 26 Broadway reviewed the samples. They discussed the engineering challenges. They calculated the conversion costs. And they passed. John D. Archbold, Rockefeller's hand-picked successor, reportedly laughed at the reports from Texas. He said, "I will drink every gallon of oil produced west of the Mississippi." It was the arrogance of efficiency, the belief that their system was so optimized that anything outside it was worthless. While Standard Oil debated, Andrew Mellon cut a check. He funded the Guffey and Gailey drilling operation and helped create Gulf Oil. Joseph Cullinan founded what would become Texaco. The vacuum that Standard's arrogance created was filled by competitors who would eventually challenge its dominance. The monopoly did not die in a courtroom. It died in Texas, killed by a committee too bureaucratic to adapt to change. The legal blow came later, but by then, it was almost an afterthought. In 1902, journalist Ida Tarbell began publishing a devastating expose in McClure's magazine. Her investigation would run for 2 years, 19 installments that methodically documented Standard Oil's rise. This was personal for Tarbell. Her father had been an independent oil man in Pennsylvania, destroyed by Standard's tactics during the Cleveland Massacre. She had witnessed it at age 14. She had watched her family's livelihood consumed by Rockefeller's machine. Now she had the platform and the evidence to expose it all. The secret rebates, the industrial espionage, the systematic crushing of competitors, the drawbacks that turned the railroads into weapons. Each installment brought new readers, new outrage, new political pressure. Rockefeller refused to respond publicly, but privately he was furious. The public relations damage was immense. The name Rockefeller, once associated with efficiency and progress, became associated with ruthlessness and greed. Political action followed. The Department of Justice filed suit under the Sherman Antitrust Act. The case wound through the courts for years. May 15, 1911. The Supreme Court ruled Standard Oil an illegal monopoly in restraint of trade. Dissolution into 34 separate companies within 6 months. And Rockefeller, on the golf course, said, "Buy Standard Oil stock." Here is the paradox that most people miss entirely. He held shares in all 34 successor companies. When Standard Oil was one monopoly, investors could not buy in. The stock was tightly held by insiders. After the breakup, the new companies went public. Investors flooded in. Demand skyrocketed. Stock prices doubled, then tripled. Standard Oil of New Jersey became Exxon. Standard Oil of New York became Mobil. Standard Oil of California became Chevron. Standard Oil of Indiana became Amoco. Standard Oil of Ohio became Sohio, later absorbed by BP. The breakup that was supposed to punish monopoly power instead created a portfolio. Rockefeller's wealth did not shrink, it multiplied. Today, many of those 34 pieces have merged back together. Exxon and Mobil reunited in 1999. Chevron absorbed Gulf and Texaco. The empire that was shattered has largely reconsolidated over a century. Rockefeller became America's first billionaire. His fortune at its peak represented roughly 1.5% of the entire American economy. Adjusted for GDP share, that is approximately $400 billion today, more than Bezos, Musk, or Gates at their peaks. The richest American who ever lived. But here is what separates Rockefeller from the Vanderbilts and the Astors. The Vanderbilts built railroads and lost everything within 3 generations. Mansions sold, fortunes scattered. The name became a symbol of wealth squandered. The Astors held Manhattan passively and faded into obscurity. They watched their real estate appreciate, but failed to adapt to a changing world. The Rockefellers did something different. They systematized the preservation. In his later years, Rockefeller wrote 38 letters to his heirs. These were not sentimental notes. They were operating manuals. Instructions on governance, philanthropy, public perception, and the management of controversy. A compressed doctrine for multi-generational wealth. He established trusts with strict distribution rules. 5% per year. Never touch the principal. The wealth would compound across generations, protected from the spending habits of any single heir. The Rockefeller Foundation, established in 1913, has given away more than $17 billion. It funded the eradication of hookworm in the American South. It supported the development of the polio vaccine. It built medical schools and universities across the world. This was not generosity. This was strategy. Philanthropy became the family's shield. The name that once meant monopoly and manipulation came to mean medicine and education. The robber baron reinvented himself as a benefactor of humanity. By the time Rockefeller died in 1937, 2 months short of his 98th birthday, the transformation was complete. The obituaries praised his giving, not his taking. His descendants would serve as governors, senators, and vice presidents. His foundations would shape public health policy for a century. His corporate structure would become the model for every multinational that followed. What can we learn from a man who built a machine this powerful? Infrastructure is governance. Whoever controls the pipelines, the railroads, the distribution networks controls the outcome. This was true in 1870. It remains true today. Margin advantages compound faster than marketing. Rockefeller did not win through branding. He won through cost structure. When you can produce cheaper than your competitor can buy, competition becomes meaningless. Legal structure is strategy. When the trust became illegal, Standard Oil became a holding company. When the holding company was broken up, the pieces became more valuable separately. The system survives by changing its container. Reputation is a balance sheet item. Rockefeller spent 4 decades managing perception through philanthropy. The investment paid returns that lasted generations. And finally, the playbook outlives the man. Vertical integration, horizontal consolidation, regulatory navigation, philanthropy as legitimacy. Every modern corporation runs a version of this system. Amazon controls its supply chain from warehouse to doorstep. Tech giants dominate through integration. The foundations of today's billionaires shape policy just as Rockefellers did a century ago. The tactics evolved. The structure remained. John D. Rockefeller did not just build an oil company. He built the architecture of modern corporate power. And whether you realize it or not, you interact with that architecture every single day. The question is not whether the system is good or evil. That is the wrong frame entirely. The question is whether you understand it. Because the system does not care if you approve. It only cares if you participate. And you do. We all do. That is the Rockefeller legacy. Not oil, not money. The machine itself. Running quietly, efficiently, exactly as he designed it. 150 years later,